Today we're talking about how you can survive TikTok ban. One of the things you can do is own your relationship with your audience. If you own the relationship with your audience, you don't have to worry about when the currents change or when the tech weather changes or when another mogul or organization decides to buy your favorite platform. One of the challenges that we have as creators, particularly independent creators, which is my focus, I'm here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. One of the challenges that we have is that we don't necessarily have the reach of a Penguin when it comes to book publishing, the reach of a MTV Viacom when it comes to music. We don't have the reach of a Clear Channel when it comes to radio. I can go down the list. You know where the conglomerates are. Amazon when it comes to selling and shipping. So we have to kind of create partnerships in some way. In those partnerships, though, often these organizations are leveraging our well cultivated audience to build up their bottom line, to build up their shareholder price, to build up their power. And I don't mean this in like an evil way. Corporations have a lot of issues, but this isn't a street or you know what I'm trying to say, an argument. Street, I don't know what a street is, but a street, that's what I was trying to say, which somehow sounds dirty, but I'm not trying to be dirty. But it's isn't a street. Street is with a D. Tell you, Wednesday feels like Friday this week, man. It's not a screed against corporations. They're not great, but that's not my point. My point is that we are the ones that actually provide the power to these organizations. If there weren't as many independent creators and producers using Amazon, the Amazon wouldn't have any power. If there weren't as many people connecting on Facebook, now known as Meta, as there are now, then Meta wouldn't have as much power. If there weren't as many independent music artists, a lot of y'all that I coach who didn't have music on Spotify, where would Spotify's power come from? The trade off that we have with that access to a so called million or billions of people, that audience, the trade off we often make is that we lose access, direct access to that audience, and we trade off access to them, quote unquote, for including this middleman or middlewoman, however you want to phrase it. Now, if the middle person is involved, then we're going to get less and less information about the people that we're serving. If Meta or Facebook, let's call it Facebook, if Facebook said, yeah, I think we're going to charge you a little bit more money to access those 10,000 fans that you have. So you can access 1,000. We'll pick the 1,000. You can access 1,000. But if you give us $1, you can access 5,000. If you give us $10, you can access all of them. That literally happened when I was promoting my first major book 15 years ago. And I was like, oh, they can do that? And I was like, of course they can do that. If I say no, then even though I built this group of 10,000 people, I don't know where their addresses are, proverbially or otherwise. I don't know their email addresses. I don't know their home addresses. I don't know their phone numbers. I don't know how to reach them. What happens when my next book comes out? I got to pay the middleman now. That's what happens when you don't own your audience. I'm sympathetic if you're in that situation with TikTok because, again, I'm speaking from experience. This isn't just this isn't theory. Like I'm talking 2008, 2009, 2010, and seeing some of that writing on the wall and being like, oh, I better go ahead and figure out how to connect with my audience directly. You see the real power in these bigger organizations, and today we focus on social media platforms, is that they have the information about the people that you've been trying to reach and that you have already reached. It's not just your potential customers, but also the people that are already your customers. When I got onto YouTube, when I got more focused on LinkedIn over the last few years, so forth, there's so many people that I ran into that said, hey, I was familiar with your work, but now that you're on this platform, now I'm going to follow you. Now I'm going to buy your books. So certain people that are only going to be dedicated to that particular platform. These platforms know that. So it's only there's people that are only loyal to TikTok, at least for right now, or only loyal to TikTok. Because of that, they're able to leverage that and say, all right, well, maybe you can make some money on this after you get 10,000 subscribers. But please keep creating content because that's what keeps things going. Yes, we can go and get your book in front of your million subscribers. I don't have a million, but you hear what I'm saying. We can get it in front of the million subscribers. But if you decide to leave the platform, you're not going to have information about the subscribers. Some of my books that I've done have been bestsellers. In some cases, those bestsellers and people learning about the book, be connecting to people who have bought the book, happened because of social media. But once I left that social media platform, or once that social media platform decided to say, hey, we're going to go under other ownership and we don't like the content you're doing, so we're not going to promote it as much. They call it shadow banning. We're going to go and put that content away. I've written about some pretty controversial concepts. Once that happens, once I had the next book out, I wasn't able to access the audience that bought the original book that made it a bestseller. That's part of the game. Own your relationship with your audience. Ways you can do that is through platforms that you actually own. One of the main platforms of this show is YouTube, but I own all the content. I have hard drives with all the videos that I've done for y'all over the years. And then also, you might be watching this on LinkedIn. You may be watching on Twitch. You might be watching on Amazon Live. You might be watching it through somebody else on Facebook. You might be watching it somewhere else. So that being agnostic, which was the previous point, allows you to own your audience a little bit more. Because then you can catch me somewhere else. Personally, the TikTok ban's not going to affect me that much. I get some followers on TikTok. I got some hits over there. But that's not the only place I was concentrating. So it allows me to do that, and people are still able to stay connected to me. Another way you can do that is finding platforms that have no middleman. And we're going to get into that in a second. But that relationship with your audience is so key to the point of it. Fantastic book that I'd recommend if you want to understand this more is The Power of Onlyness by Nilofer Merchant. Shout out to Nilofer. I hope you're doing wonderful. Fantastic book. You can see some of the dog ears and fantastic thick book that came out probably about 10 years ago, but still extremely relevant. What I love about the book is that it really talks about how being yourself builds the best audience. A really simple example of this is you see how I'm dressed with like, I have my fairly nice blazer. I think it might be Brooks Brothers. Fairly nice blazer. I have my shirt, which is getting a little wrinkly now. There's my Bring Your Wear shirt. All these shirts and all this stuff is available at damebrown.net, as well as the mug. Shout out to Bring Your Wear. And I have a little bit of shave stubble, but not too much, but I did shave. I'm wearing glasses. You know, I got my two favorite brothers up here. I got John Coltrane as well as, sorry, it's reverse in the mirror here, as well as my guy James Baldwin. And that conveys a certain energy. So if you identify with any of this, the homemade shirt, which I actually sell, drinking from a mug that was designed with two other designers, um, me wearing a nice blazer, but being comfortably in my home office and having, you know, a wonderful master of music and a wonderful master of words on the wall. If that connects with you, then you found home. You're among your people now. If it doesn't connect with you, Bring Worth TV might not be for you. Zero shots. Just might not be for you. That's what she talks about in the book. However, if I wasn't wearing glasses, because I'm nearsighted and I'm a nerd, so I'm wearing glasses. But if I had contacts instead, which isn't really my style, if I wore, you know, a three-piece suit with a tie and really nice pants, you can't see my pants, but really nice pants and, you know, boat shoes, we used to call them, but basically loafers and stuff like that. And I had let's just say other people on my wall, then I can't be mad when I don't find people that are like me because I wasn't representing who I am. This is Damon. When, for my friends that are watching, this is me, kind of who I dress, it's who I am. Folks that have coached with me. If you've been watching the Bring Your Work show for the last 4.5 years, thank you, number one. Number two, I've been pretty much the same. Couple office changes, couple new pieces of art, same energy, same Damon. That's what she talks about in the book. That's really the power of it. It's the power of holiness, as in, I'm going to show up as my full self, particularly if you're independent. I'm going to show up as my full self as much as possible. That allows other people, it's called signaling, to see me and be like, oh, yeah, I want to rock with Damon. Oh, Damon's a coach? I want to coach with him. Oh, Damon has a newsletter at joindamon.me and it's free? Sign me up. You ever see somebody or see a message out there, and it could have been on social media, where you see it and you're like, oh, I rock with this. Yeah, this is me. Yeah, let me sign up right away. Oh, they have a book? Let me get their book. I feel that way all the time. That's one of the reasons why I love coaching, because I want to help you cultivate that part and that confidence and the ability to show up as yourself so that people can feel that way about you. Because you felt that way about certain people where you're like, oh, yeah, whatever it is. Again, I'm a big music guy, see Coltrane on the wall. And it's like, oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, they have a new album coming out? I'm on it. Pre order. Oh, they're going to be in Las Vegas? Concert. I don't go to that many concerts. But it's like, oh, yeah, I rock with them like that. This book talks about that. That's just one simple gem in this book. It breaks down so well. Nilüfer's book should be on your shelf. From a brass tack standpoint, let's give you some tools that'll help you on your way. The first tool, my favorite tool at the moment actually, is Beehive. And Beehive, let's close this up. Beehive is a newsletter platform. I like Beehive for two really big reasons. And I was on a long-standing um, newsletter platform, and then I discovered Beehive, and I was like, yeah, I don't need to do that anymore. Went a totally different direction, migrate all my stuff over to Beehive. Shout out to Beehive. Number one, Beehive is great because the format is super simple, and that gives you a basic idea. And so when you write a newsletter, it's very similar to if you used to write web pages, old school, then you'll be super familiar with it. If you know WordPress, if you worked with what's called a CMS or a content management system, excuse me, it's a lot closer to that. With the bigger platforms I worked with in the past to manage my newsletter, it's felt very chaotic and overwhelming. It's just too much stuff. This one, I send out a newsletter again every Wednesday. You go to joindamon.me, join it for free. There's also archives of all the newsletters, particularly over the past year. That's all set up. I go in there. I write my newsletter usually on Monday or Tuesday of that week. I go and set it up. I just start typing. There's an image I want to put in there of the latest video, such as me promoting me having a live today. I just copy and paste. It's really simple and straightforward. Okay, that's number one. Number two, which is what I really like about it, especially if you know my work, you know where I'm going to go. It's really easy to create passive income with this. Getting sponsors or advertisements for newsletters can be really complicated. And frankly, the bigger newsletter companies, like Beehive just started like 2 years ago. So the classic ones, which respect to the founders of those, they never really made it easier to get brand deals or to get sponsorships for it. For Beehive, I set up my newsletter there. By the following week, they had two or three recommended sponsors for the newsletter. And the sponsors pay. If you know YouTube or other platforms, this might sound familiar to you. The sponsors pay based on price per click. So if someone clicks on the advertisement in your newsletter, each time someone clicks on it, you get a certain amount. Or it'll be price per open. I think they call it open. Price per opening. So if you have 1,000 people that open up your newsletter, they'll give you a rate that says for every 1,000 people that open the newsletter, we'll pay you X amount of dollars. It's set up, it's streamlined. All the money is handled by Beehive. They go and tally it by the following, usually by the following week, if not earlier. Then they tell you what they calculated, and then by month's end, all that's transferred into your wallet. That's it. So from not having much sponsorship at all, in the previous years, I've had a newsletter, and I've had a newsletter for unofficially probably 15 to 20 years. Officially for I'd say the last 10. After all the ups and downs with finding sponsors and brand deals, stuff like that, with the newsletter, again, I'd say within the first week, maybe second week newsletter, I was already getting money. And I was giving products and services and ideas that actually work with my audience, which is a key part of it. But to emphasize that and to remind you, notice I said my audience, not Beehive's audience, not YouTube's audience, not Twitter X audience, not anybody else's audience, my audience. I have access to everyone's email address, in some cases home address if they gave them to me, if they purchased, a book directly from me at DamonBrown.net or whatever. I know what newsletters are into and what they're not into. So if something were to happen to Beehive, which I wish them luck, I really like working with them, then it's not like I lose all my contacts. And that gives you a great example where with the previous, much larger, more corporate newsletter platform that I was using, I was able to download all the email addresses that I'd gotten over the years from the platform and then just transfer them over to Beehive. It took me maybe an afternoon. I think I read a couple tutorials on it, but it was really straightforward. That's the power of having a newsletter. You actually can contact the people that you built up over time. Imagine instead of having a newsletter with the previous company, I transferred over to Beehive about a year ago. Imagine if I was in this situation. I'm like, you know what? I don't rock with this corporate company anymore. I like y'all, but you're not for me. You guys are going in directions I don't want to go in. And it's like, oh, there's a new platform that I want to go over there. If this was the equivalent of a LinkedIn, the equivalent, particularly of a TikTok, the equivalent of particularly a Facebook or Instagram or a Snapchat, you're not taking it with you at all. So all those followers, all those likes, all that stuff, you're not taking anything with you. So you're going to have to build your base all over again. This is one of the reasons why having a newsletter is a really big part of it. That's why you have all these people having their different newsletters now, because a lot of people are waking up to this. Such an important part of the conversation. If you're going to be owning your relationship with your audience, a newsletter could be a really big part of it. I would highly recommend Beehive. You get a discount if you do it through me. I think it's a nice free trial and a discount on the AM subscription. Be sure and check it out. Tell them I sent you. Really, really good stuff. Another platform that I really appreciate is Calendly. I've been talking about their praises for years. And I'll show you the basic. There's not a whole lot on there, but I'll go and show you what's happening. Calendly works like this. It coordinates with your current calendar, and I have a few different calendars. I have my calendar, and then I have the family calendar. It's in the calendar for the boys and other members of the family. So everything I do, from coaching appointments, I just had a session earlier today. So from like coaching appointments to dates, to meetings, to conferences, to keynoting, all that needs to be jammed in there. And then I have a new coaching client, and I just talked to one recently, and they were like, and it's like, okay, well, let's set up a meeting. Fridays work for me. Okay. Now, if you have an independent business, you know how it gets where you go back and forth. It takes forever. And you're like, oh, well, how about Friday at 9? No. How about 9:30? Well, I don't know about 9:30, but how about we do Monday and it just goes on forever, particularly with email. It goes on forever. Calendly works as a really simple black box. Black boxes are those things that keep track of all the all the technology and decisions made in an airplane, and it's usually recorded when something happens, right? And there's like, well, let's look at the black box. Black box is also a technology term as far as there being a certain output. They call them functions, where you put something in, it does its magic and it comes out. And you can rely on that black box to figure it out. You don't have to worry about what's going on with that. Calendly, basically, black box is your calendar. So I can say, okay, my kid's got a Cub Scout meeting and I have my live shows on Wednesdays and this is happening. Da, da, da. And Calendly would be like, okay, great. And what hours did you want to have available, for your coaching clients? Oh, let's do Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Okay, great. Da 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 do do do. Great. Set up the links, and then it'll automatically block out times that don't fit within, in my case, my schedule or my family schedule. And it's within the parameters of when I want to work. For instance, took pretty much all of New Year's Eve week off. So there's nothing available on my calendar. So when a coaching client says, oh, yeah, let's connect on Friday, I'm like, great, pick a time. I can send them the calendar link and they'll know what times are available. I don't have to get any more gray hair worrying about this, that, and the third, and there being a conflict of time. If they can't do it, or if they have a challenge, or if they're having some challenging a conflict, or they need to cancel something, then they're able to go and say, oh, okay, let's go ahead and reschedule. It's like, great, they reschedule, same situation. They still got to organize. So it's a great way to do that. Big fan of Calendly. I've been using it for years, probably going on a decade, and it's been so good to streamline it. And especially, I got two little kids. They're 8 and 11. You can imagine, years ago when they were like 3 and 6 and stuff like that, preschool and all. It's like, woo. I need Calendly way more than I did now. But with Calendly, if you're going to be doing more of the one-on-one conversations, if you're going to be owning this time with your audience, you need to have a schedule, have a plan. Just saying, I want to connect with my audience more. I've been there. That's not going to cut it. Not going to do it. Instead, you need to be like, oh, I'm going to connect with my audience more. I want to have more one-on-one time, or I want to have more group sessions. Okay, how's that going to look in your calendar? Calendly is a great step for that. It's super affordable too. Yeah, but the link is right there. You can go and check it out. It's not even an affiliate. Just check it out, see what's going on. No discount necessary for sure. One of my favorite master classes, How to Grow an Audience If You Have None. It takes about 3 or 4 of the best edit audience, best episodes, not audiences, episodes in regards to having an audience, and breaks it down. And yeah, I think y'all would appreciate it. It's actually one of the more popular episodes of that period of time back in the 300s, 325 over there. So I'm wondering, how are you building a relationship with your audience? How are you cultivating a relationship with your audience outside of the middlemen and middlewomen, middle organizations? How are you cultivating that? How are you going to do that in this upcoming year? Let me know in the comments. I'm super curious because, with TikTok going away, it's a good sign.